We're news for business people.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Ask BQ on BloombergQuint. I'm Pradeep Pandya.
Hi everyone, and I'm Navneet Saluja D'Souza. This is the show where we address all your stock queries, so you can write to us on Twitter, Facebook, or just call us on 022-4540-4141. You can also mail us at askbq@bloombergquint.com with all your financial queries, and we'll try and address as many as possible on the show. Just remember to add the AskBQ hashtag.
But before that, let's have a look at how markets are doing today. And if you look at the movement so far, the key indices have not really done much. In fact, they have come off a bit from day's high. Both Sensex and Nifty. Nifty Bank continues to underperform. But on the other hand, you have interesting moves in media sector. It could be because of Sun TV and various other stocks that have in fact moved up today are in limelight. Are the stocks that were linked to the 2G scam? If you look at what is happening to Arcom, that continues to move up, building on to the gains that it made yesterday. You also have Unitech, DB Realty, whole host of stocks that have been moving up in today's trade following that judgment coming in from the CBI special court. You also have some of the pharma names doing well today. Wockhardt moves up on the news that it is going to invite US FDA to inspect its Vadodara facility. Also, Morupan Lab has moved up today as well. Yesterday, the stock had hit the upper circuit on the news that it has got US FDA approval for one of the drugs. Second day of gains for Morupan Lab, closing very close to day's high, actually up 14%. A few stocks which are not doing so well would include names like M&M, Balakrishna Industries. Interestingly, these are the stocks that go ex-bonus today. So maybe there's a technical move. There was a build-up before when it was trading come bonus, and today once it went ex-bonus, there is some bit of correction which is always expected.
Well, that's about the markets. Expect some sideways move as there is Bank Nifty weekly options expiry. Hence, we've seen a bit of weakness coming there as well. On that note, let's get in our two experts of the day then. Thakkar of Anand Rathi Financial Services and Ashish Kukreja of Craft Wealth Management are here to answer all your queries. Welcome to the show, gentlemen, and good afternoon to both of you. Let's take our first query of the day then. Nenu Malbhatia writes to us on WhatsApp. He has 15,000 shares of Gati bought at 261 rupees with a one-year view. He wants to know if he should hold or sell at 261. I guess the current price of Gati is somewhere about 130 or 135. Looks like he's bought somewhere in 2014, because that was the time when the stock was actually trading around those levels of 250 to 300. Let me take this query to Ashish. Ashish, what's the view on Gati? A lot of brokerage houses or even investors have been betting on the logistics space after a GST came about, and the last one was that it's got infrastructure status 2. But still, the movement that you see on these logistics stocks, it fizzles out after a while. What should one do if somebody is holding Gati at such a higher level?
See, themes have played out in the market, and now probably numbers need to catch up. That's when the stocks will get what they deserve in terms of how market take them. So I think the whole logistics theme is kind of taking rest for a while. Long-term story stays intact, no deny on that front. Things are slowly moving. Within this space, we definitely like stocks like Snowman Logistics because of it being a niche space, and that's where you will get a lot of benefit of the whole structured growth in the sector. Otherwise, I think if you are long term, then you should definitely stay with the stock. If you're someone who's here for a trading or a medium term kind of a bet, then I think you will have better stories coming up with the budget and a rural theme which is going to pick up. So one can exit the stock, but for long terms, it still looks okay.
Okay, so if you have a long-term view, you can hold on. For a medium-term investor or a trader, there would be more themes available in the market. You can look at that. Moving on to the next query, Jignesh Patel writes to us on Facebook. He has 100 shares of Edelweiss. This stock has been a big outperformer so far. And Jignesh has a 3-year view. He has bought at 296. He wants to know what should he do. I think stay invested. Ashish, what do you say? Ashish, the question is on Edelweiss.
Sorry, can you repeat?
Edelweiss Financials. Our viewer has bought it at 296 and he has a 3-year view.
Yeah, I think, sure. I think financials are definitely looking good with the way the whole consolidation is there in front of us. This Religare deal and also the whole story around asset reconstruction company and the whole equity cult, which is just kind of I would say just kind of picking up and I think there are not too many players with this kind of size in the market. I think the whole wealth space is somewhere Edelweiss is going to take some strong inroads in probably months and quarters to come. So there is no denial to the fact, and also if I have to add, Pradeep, the whole fundraising zone which we are seeing in the market, this line of QIPs and string of IPOs which are ahead of us. So putting all together, I think Edelweiss is a good story even at these levels after good movement. I don't see any downside to the stock, and I think if they end up doing few things right after these acquisitions and coming out of non-core businesses, then this stock will be one of the performing stock in 2018.
Okay, that's the view on Edelweiss. The counter is down almost 2% in today's trade. Manoj Patil calls us from Gujarat. Hi Manoj, good afternoon and thanks a lot for calling us. Tell us what you want to know from our experts.
Yes, thank you ma'am. I am Manoj from Gujarat, Nadiad.
Go ahead Manoj.
सर मुझे एक पूछना था कि मैंने 2 स्टॉक होल्ड के अरोबिंदा फार्म
Okay.
and Aurobindo Farm and Yes Bank. I purchased Aurobindo Farm of 721 and Yes Bank and 312.
Right.
So what should I do now? Both the stock at below my purchase.
Right. Manoj, आप कब तक होल्ड कर सकते हैं ये दोनों स्टॉक्स?
मीडियम टर्म के लिए ही कर सकता हूँ मैडम, तो 2.5 से 3 महीने तक कर सकता हूँ.
Okay, medium term. So I will take your query to Jay Thakkar. Jay, what's the view? Aurobindo is way below his buy price of 721 and Yes Bank is hovering around the same levels. What would you advise Manoj to do?
Hi, good afternoon to you and Pradeep. Well, I think overall Aurobindo Pharma has formed a good double bottom in the short term, and the resistance on the upside comes to around 700. I think once it takes off 700 and close above it, at least for a week or so, I think this stock thereafter is likely to inch towards the levels of around 725. So 725 is much likely, and I think that's what is his buying price is somewhere around 721. So he will get his buying price and some few points about that is around 725. If the short-term trader, I would say that book around 725, but the medium to long-term trader, I think this is one stock which is definitely likely to inch towards the levels of 950. So if someone would like to hold on for the long term, then it's 950. For the short term, 725 can't be ruled out. The second is Yes Bank. Now, Yes Bank has seen a decent correction, and that's been a 5-year declining structure. So I believe that there could be some retracement of this entire fall which we have seen. It's just that Yes Bank needs to take off the levels of around say 321 on the upside, 321, 322, which is near to his 200 DMA. This stock is trading below his 200 DMA. It's been consolidating continuously below 200 DMA, and that's the main reason it's not performing or it's not going up. But once it takes off 322, I think it will zoom towards the levels of 340, 45. So I think watch out for those levels of 322. Once it takes off, book it at around 340 to 345.
Okay. 340, 345 could be the target area. for this stock. We are getting lots of your queries on Facebook, Twitter, and other social media platforms. So first we start with Facebook queries. Prashant Joshi has bought 255 shares of MCX at 1,096 with a 6 months view. Since he has a 6 months view, Jay, we'll come to you. MCX bought at 255. What's your call?
Well, see, overall, Pradeep, this stock has been quite an underperformer, and we have seen, in fact, this stock, just forming low tops and low bottom since couple of trading sessions now. But then, somewhere I believe that, a good base formation, for at least for the short term, seems to have been formed in MCX, and I think that's an inverse head and shoulders pattern. Once it takes off the levels of around 1,000 on the upside, this stock too is likely to zoom towards this 200 DMF 1070. So I think yes, for a target of 1070, one can continue holding this. On the lower side, stop loss is quite deep. I would say it comes to 920. So with that kind of a risk reward, I think it's still in favor of the bulls. So continue holding on.
Okay, so that's the view on MCX. Jay recommends to hold on to the position. The counter is actually trading around the levels of 966. Let's take some more live queries that we're getting on Facebook. Raj Shah has written to us. He's bought 2,500 shares of KCP at a price of 123 with a medium-term view. He wants to know what should he do with this. Jay, I'll come back to you with KCP. We've seen a good move actually for this counter in the last 1 month or so. It was consolidating, I guess, somewhere around 115 to 120. We didn't see much of move, but I guess yesterday there was a sharp increase which was seen for a couple of these mid-cap cement players. On the chart, KCP, what can be the upside target if somebody is holding it from a medium-term perspective?
Well, you're right, Navneet. It was consolidating within a range of 130 on the upside to around, say, 110 on the lower side, and that was, in that process, it formed a symmetrical triangular pattern. Now, the move prior to this consolidation was an impulse. So if I just take the equality on the upside, the minimum target thereafter would come to the levels of around 165. So I think it's still got around, say, 25 rupees or on the upside. Continue holding it. On the lower side, I would say that the stop loss now should be around 130. That was the resistance earlier. So if it closed below those levels, then it would be a false breakout. Else, you can see around 25 rupees jump from these levels as well. So I think the risk reward is definitely in favor of buying from these levels as well.
Okay, so that's a call coming in on KCP. Let's move on to the next query coming from Bhavani Shankar Behera on Facebook. He has bought 2,000 shares of Purvankara at 151 with a 2 years view. He wants to know what to do with this stock. Purvankara, 151 is his cost, and since he has 2 years view, Ashish, are you tracking the stock? Any views?
See, I don't particularly track this stock, Pradeep, but definitely the space has some headroom now with the way the whole real estate sector is moving. But I believe that one needs to kind of stick to only few stories right now, and we like Godrej Properties with the way the whole model is lined up. I think they're going to really surprise market next probably couple of financial years in terms of their revenue growth and the way they're consolidating business and high amount of rental income which may come from the Vikhroli piece. So I think that's where I think there is a good stable story in this space. We also particularly like Ashiana, a good pedigree of promoters, and where the government is focusing in terms of low cost housing, low debt company. So I think these are the two stocks which I like. Purvankara is trying to get out of their comfort market of South and getting into other markets, but it's not easy, setting up base. If they get a initial success in markets like Mumbai and other places, then definitely the stock may do well. Till then, I would recommend Godrej Properties and Ashiana.
Okay, so Godrej Properties and Ashiana is something which Ashish is betting on from that space. We've got Chintan Shah, who's calling us from Ahmedabad. Hi, Chintan, good afternoon to you. And thanks a lot for calling us today. Tell us, what's your query on?
Ma'am, I have purchased a few stocks like Dalmia Bharat, Stride Sashun, and IDFC Bank and Dena Bank. I would like to know, should I keep holding these stocks, and should I buy more at this level? Because I have purchased Dalmia Bharat at somewhere around 3,250 rupees. in the quantity of 1,000 shares,
Right.
500 shares. Stride Shashun somewhere around 900 rupees, 1,000 shares. Dena Bank somewhere around 2,000 shares, 36 rupees. IDFC Bank 1,000 shares at somewhere around 65 rupees. And these are after GST. This is
Right.
after these are big investments that I have made in
Sure.
averaging this stock.
Okay, since there are 4 to 5 stocks, I'll just go to Ashish. Ashish, quickly, he's just named 4 to 5 stocks from his portfolio from the likes of Dalmia Bharat, Stride Shasun, IDFC Bank and Dena Bank. I want you to quickly tell him whether he should keep these stocks in his portfolio. He also wants to know if he can add in any of these at current levels.
So they're a good set of stocks, a good pick, I would say, but I would like to recommend few changes. I think PSU will probably now start recovering after after the good rise and then a correction. So I would recommend to get into PNB instead of Dena Bank, which we like at these levels. Dalmia has done extremely well, a very good pick. But I think now, if I see the way large caps are now trying to find forefront. I think ACC is a better call at these levels. And other two stocks, IDFC Bank is a long-term play. So why don't you move to a parent, which is IDFC, which is expected to do well. I'm not going into details here now, but Stride is a good call. We also like that stock, and I think if you hold for a year, you may get 1,200 levels on these stock because of very good model and non-US portfolio.
Okay, so that's the call coming in. Next query from Twitter, coming from Sakti Natesan. Sakti has a question on Kitex Garment. Bought 100 shares at 850 with a long-term view. Kitex, do you track this stock? Ashish, do you have a view on it?
I'm afraid, Pradeep, I don't track the stock.
Okay, Jay, can you look at the chart and give a longer-term view on Kitex Garments, if possible?
Sure, Pradeep. See, I think when I look at purely, the logs chart of this stock, and right from the levels of around say 2012, from the lows of 34 until the highs of 768. And the buying price is, I think, above 800, but I cannot find where it was bought because the all-time highs are nearing 760 or so. But then I think that was an impulse move. This stock has recently, after a very sharp correction, it fell from 760 to almost to the levels of 200, and I think that was sharp wave to correction. I think that's over. Because the recent rise which we have seen from 200 levels coming, that's been impulse. It has again broken out from the short-term resistance as well. I think this stock is definitely bottomed out. I don't think it's likely to go below 200 levels now onwards. The momentum indicators which were quite oversold have come into the buy mode as well. So I think it will definitely surpass the previous highs of 768, 800 levels as well. And I think with the stop loss of 200, I think the risk is definitely favorable.
Okay, that's the view on Kitex Garments. Let's take some more query. Harshavardhan has written to us on Twitter. He wants to invest in the oil and gas sector with a long-term view, and he wants advice on the same. Ashish, in the oil and gas space, what do you prefer, the upstream companies, considering the crude oil prices have been on the higher side, or the oil marketing companies, or any of the gas distribution companies that you would like to recommend Harsha to invest into?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think upstream is something what we also prefer, and for the long term, I think ONGC is a very good play. Most of the dampeners around the stock is behind, I would say, and crude has kind of started stabilizing at these levels. And downstream, we don't prefer, like you only mentioned, we do like franchise stocks like Mahanagar, and again, they are both long-term perspective for us. They may see some volatility in months ahead, but I think both of the stocks can play a strong oil and gas play in your portfolio, ONGC and Mahanagar.
ONGC and Mahanagar Gas. These are two stocks, Harshavardhan, that Ashish is advising you to invest in. Yogesh Kalabhore has written to us on Twitter. He has bought 200 shares of Souvent Life Sciences at 209. He has a 1-year view on Souvent Life Sciences. Ashish, what's your advice?
I'm afraid, Pradeep, I don't track this stock as well. We particularly like, if I have to extend my argument, we particularly like Strides, what we discussed now, a mid-cap stock in the space, and Sun Pharma. These are two stocks which we recommend. Otherwise, on pharma, we are kind of on a wait and watch mode, and especially with the ones which are extremely US focused businesses, we want to kind of set our view only after this year and you know, see how things play out. But two stocks which I really like is Sun Pharma and Strides.
Sun Pharma and Strides is what you like, but Souvent Life Sciences, Ashish doesn't have a view, neither negative nor positive. Jay, how does it look on charts?
Souvent Life Sciences, Pradeep, I think seems to have bottomed out. It has formed a good base triangular pattern, and I think, see, among these sectors, I like two stocks. In fact, Souvent Life Sciences and Jubilant Life Sciences. I think both of these have shown or formed a good, really kind of a bottom. And Jubilant, in fact, has been trending quite higher. It's been trading above 750 zone. I think that stock is likely to go up by around 25-30% at least in the short term. But however, as far as the medium-term trend is concerned, Souvent, specifically Pradeep, I think that consolidation, the base triangular pattern was formed in its wave 4. It's just that it takes off its resistance of around 225 to 30, and once it does that, then I think it's immediately inching towards the levels of 295, 300. So I think this is a good stock, and yes, someone is really looking out for the long-term view as well. Then I think the previous highs of around 335, 340, those will also be taken off. It's just that on the lower side, it shouldn't break 160. To keep that medium to long term trend intact.
Okay, that's the view on Souvent Life Sciences. The counter this year has given returns of only between 8 to 9%. Let's move on and take some live queries that we are getting. Vishal Abang has written to us. He's bought 1,000 shares of Motherson Sumi at a price of 374. He does have a long-term view. He wants to know if he should hold or sell. If you could just pull up and see where Motherson Sumi is currently trading. I guess he's bought at higher levels of 374, but yeah, the stock is at around 370. So somewhere around the current levels only. Ashish, it's given good returns this year. Motherson Sumi, it's been a good auto ans play as well. At these levels, would you advise Vishal to hold on to his investment?
A good stock. The whole recovery in our market, and also the whole global recovery has kind of helped the stock, and I believe that if you have a long-term view, then definitely it may not perform in immediate time frame because it has done exceedingly well, and so I think for long term it's a good buy. It's a good hold.
Motherson Sumi is a good hold stock with the long-term perspective. Let's move on to the next query. Abhishek Nag has bought 100 shares of Ashok Leyland at 122 with a long-term view. Ashok Leyland is a favorite stock with Jay Thakkar. Jay, what's your call now?
Well, I think, Ashok Leyland definitely, it has been one stock which I've been liking, and then, this, as far as the long term is concerned, I think still this stock has a lot to do on the upside, Pradeep. It seems to have completed its wave 4, and on the upside, it has started its wave 5, within which it seems to be trading well in its upward sloping channel. On the immediate basis, I think this stock is likely to inch towards the levels of 140, 145. On the lower side, it has got a good supporter of around 105 to 107. That's the support range. So I think, yes, with that as a stop loss, one can continue holding it for at least 145.
Okay, so continue to hold Ashok Leyland, which is trading around those levels of 118. Let's take some more queries. Biranchi Panda has written to us on Facebook. He wants to invest in Muthoot Finance, and he has a long-term view here. He's asking if one should put their money into it or not. Ashish, Muthoot Finance, the counter is up almost 60% this year. Do you like the model of gold financing?
Yeah, we do. I think NBFCs are going to still do well, and will find their takers. But not Muthoot particularly. We like stocks like, if I have to take this opportunity on NBFC and give you a few stocks, we like Equitas at these levels. You don't have too many takers for the stock for not good performance, but I think the whole cleanup act is going on, and if you have a 1 year kind of a horizon, this stock may really surprise you, and this is one stock which you should keep in your portfolio. Second stock is Manappuram. I think again there also we have been recommending this stock for a long time, and we still believe that stock can do well. The whole gold space is looking good because government wants to kind of kickstart this dead asset and do a lot of stuff. And probably the third stock which we like is Magma FinCorp, because of the tractor thing which is going to do well. The tractor portfolio is very good for the company, and they are expanding pretty strongly. There's a new management which has come up, and old promoter driven management is now kind of being driven by some professionals. So I think these are three stocks which can really do well in 2018 if you can hold them for 6 months to 1 year.
Okay, so these are the stocks that Ashish really likes in this segment in NBFC, so to say. Let's move on to the next query coming on Facebook from Ravi Kumar. He wants a view on Future Lifestyle, and let's get details. He has bought 300 at 350, 300 shares bought at 350. Jay, what's your view? The stock we are talking about is Future Lifestyle.
Sure, Pradeep. See, entire this group, in fact, Pradeep, is doing quite well. After a long time, we have been seeing that the future stocks have been participating, and then once it has started, it's been trading quite higher. And I think now onwards, future retail, future lifestyle is also likely to again make one more move on the upside, because since I would say June of 2017, this stock is consolidating within a range of around 300, 301 to around 412 on the upside. So that's a 100 points range, and I think that's a triangular pattern that's been formed in its wave 4. So minimum target, if I just calculate in a wave 5, then it would come at around 484, and thereafter the aggressive target would be around 530. So I think yes, one can continue holding this. On the lower side, there has to be a stop loss, and that would be at around 327, which is the low of its wave C.
Okay, so that's the view on Future Lifestyle from Jay. We've also got some queries on YouTube. Amir Burhan has written to us. He's asking to suggest a good equity stock to invest. Almost 2 lakh rupees is what he can put in for a period of 6 months. Jay, I'll come back to you. For a period of 6 months, anything on the charts that you would like to recommend, Amir?
From the view of 6 months, I think there is one stock which has seen a good amount of correction right now, but then I think the previous move was with an clear increasing volumes, and that's GPPL, Gujarat Pipavav. I think this stock is likely to inch towards the levels of 175 to 180. Right now trading at around 138. I think on the lower side this stock has good support around the levels of around 120 or so. So if you just see the risk reward, that is quite in favor of the bulls. Apart from this, one more stock which I think is Bata. I think this stock has seen a decent correction from its highs, and overall that's happened in its wave 4. It has taken exactly the support at the lower end of the channel. So I think again it's likely to move beyond the levels of 900. So I think Bata is one stock, and second would be GPPL.
Okay. Next query is coming in from Palash Jain on EPC Industries with a long-term view. He wants to invest into this stock. Ashish, have you tracked EPC Industries?
See, stock is of a good pedigree, we all understand, and the space is, when I say pedigree, I meant promoter group, and also the space is definitely one to look out for. There are other plays as well. This is not one of the stock which we are recommending, but I think if you have a longer term view, then probably this can turn out to be a good story ahead.
Okay, EPC India, that's the call coming in. But on YouTube, with the handle name Ambassador101 wants to know, can he buy Ashiana Housing at current market price and hold it for 1 year? Just wanted to reiterate, I guess Ashish did mention that he likes this counter and also Godrej Properties in the same space. I would just like to reconfirm with him. Ashish, Ashiana Housing, can somebody buy at these levels?
Yeah, I think so. I think, like I said, risk of being repetitive, the whole space around low-cost housing, and you know, it's just a tip of iceberg, I would say. And there's a lot which is happening, and they have very good track record of choosing right set of tier 2, tier 3 towns, and you know, and the product delivery and the quality, everything seems to be just right for any big opportunity in the space. So Ashiana Housing looks good for a 1-year perspective.
Okay, on that note, we would like to thank both our guests, Ashish as well as Jay. Thanks a lot for joining us today and helping our viewers with their queries. That's all that we have on this edition of Ask PQ.
But remember, we are just a tweet, post or a call away, so keep your queries coming and we promise to address all of them through our shows. You can also log on to BloombergQuint.com, search for hashtag AskBQ and get answers to all the queries that were discussed during the show. Keep watching Bloomberg Quint Live.